It's always a gamble when you buy a used phone, especially when it's advertised as not turning on. But I was not prepared for what I would inevitably come to find on this phone. I paid just $27 for this Google Pixel 6a. Mum's been asking me for a new phone since her old one has stopped supporting her banking app. Considering how easy the newer Google Pixel phones are to repair, and I have the expertise to do so, this $27 phone sounded like a great deal, if the issue was what I expected it to be. It was described as not powering on, which could be caused by any number of things, including motherboard damage. Although unlikely given the exterior is not badly damaged. After unpacking the phone, I could test how much current is being drawn when plugged into power. It appears lower than what I would expect it to be, but that could be a result of the battery being fully charged, although unlikely. I purchased a new display and its matching adhesive so we can test out if I was correct with my judgment. To open the Google Pixel 6a, it will first need to be heated on a heat plate for a few minutes to soften the adhesive around the perimeter. The screen can then be slowly lifted with the aid of a suction cup once a suitable location is found. Then a plastic pick can be used to cut through the adhesive, being mindful of any cables or components beneath. The display is also held on with a few plastic clips which should release with some slight pressure. The display can then be folded to the side, revealing the internals of the Google Pixel 6a. The first thing that strikes my eye is a large stain to the graphite sheet, yet the liquid indicators are white, indicating no liquid has come in contact with the phone. I have seen this before. Believe it or not, phones can sweat. Sometimes you find stains like these under flex cables. Speaking of cables, the display cable is attached under this daunting screwless bracket, which requires you to dig at it with some tweezers. The display connector has a small gold strip below the connector itself, and this is the only place you can pry the cable. It may be tempting to just pry up anywhere, but one wrong move and you will destroy the phone. Trust me, I did it with a brand new Google Pixel 7a. I pried in exactly the same spot, but that wasn't its designated area on that model, and it broke off several components, which killed the display and required complex micro-soldering to fix. Only now do I see the gold pry indicator, which, to be honest, wasn't much of an indicator, as even under a microscope, it's still tiny. I'll get the new screen attached so we can test out the 6a. Pressing the power button, nothing appeared on screen, so it was time to plug it in and see what happens. Now it's lighting up with the battery flat screen before automatically powering itself on and then back off again as the battery was completely flat. Once fully charged, it was time for a test. The phone is locked with a pattern passcode. I could just wipe it now, but it's easier if I can reset it through the settings app to avoid getting locked out. Patterns are known as the least secure type of password, as people tend to pick easy, predictable patterns. And this phone was no different. It only took 3 attempts and we were in. Before proceeding, let's get this new display fixed into place. For that, I'll need to apply some new adhesive, but I'll need to remove the remainder of the old stuff first. I used a combination of scrapers to get the bulk of it off before using isopropyl alcohol to clean off the remainder. The alcohol turns the adhesive to goo, so it's best to leave it to last as a final cleaning solution. Now it's time to apply the new adhesive. Once the top half is aligned, it can be pressed down, adhering it to the frame. Once all the plastic films are removed, the new display can be plugged in. The connector is significantly recessed into the midframe, making alignment difficult. Preceding that, the display bracket can be clipped back into place before I clean the internals and remove the plastic film over the back of the display and camera lens. With that, we can now close the phone, sealing the new display in place. All that's left to do is give the phone a good clean and polish to remove some of the scratches from the back. And of course, remove the plastic protective film from our new display. It's now time to wipe all previous data from the phone. However, when I went to do this, it gave me a list of accounts I was signing out of. I noticed a whole lot of accounts in various different names, which had me a little suspicious. So I had a look around, and what I found was distressing. I'd accidentally stumbled across a fraudster's phone. If you've ever wondered what your info is worth to a criminal, this one wanted $300 for a set of ID, healthcare card, and credit cards. This phone contained a number of stolen cards and documents, and it appears whoever was selling them to the owner of this device was working in a business that required scanning customer info. Obviously, they were doing this out the back, taking pictures of everything in their wallet for later sale. I also found a few photos of hard drives with some references to containing user data from an unknown source. What were they doing with all this info? Well, the owner of this phone was signing up for SIM cards, something that stupidly requires ID in this country, which is why the Optus telecommunications breach that affected millions of customers was so devastating. Because having your ID exposed means criminals can use it to open credit cards, take out loans, and many other things, all under your name. The burner numbers were being used for their job. While it's not illegal, it's not highly regarded, but it is something I would understand someone having a burner number for. But they were also using the stolen info in an attempt to take out loans or withdraw money from these cards, with varying success. But something must have been working, as they had an almost $100,000 luxury car. I say had, as it got pretty badly smashed up. Whoever owned this phone wasn't your sweet elderly grandmother who goes to church on Sundays. They were up to some real sketchy stuff. The scariest part of this is Google has just released their offline phone tracking tool, similar to the one Apple also recently created. A great tool for a first owner of a device who has lost or had their phone stolen. But what about those like myself who have purchased a used device? We don't know its history or the type of person it belonged to. But if it wasn't reset, you've just given them your address, even if it's switched off. Is this getting to a point where I need a Faraday cage to block outside communication until I check the phone? How can someone tell if a device is tracking them, even if it's switched off? This problem concerns anyone buying a used or full parts device for just about every manufacturer, as it's now baked into the software. The saving grace for me was that this phone hasn't been switched on in almost 2 years, meaning its software is outdated enough to not have received the offline tracking feature. It also had airplane mode switched on. But the truth is, if there's even the remote chance someone could be tracking this phone, I wanted to wipe everything off it. Afterwards, I did wonder if I should have handed it in, but why should I put myself at risk if my location may have been shared with them? And our weak courts would probably just bail them anyway, so what's the point? I'm also not going to risk giving mum a faulty phone, so it's time we test it with iTest, my device testing software for both Android and iOS. Not only does it support hardware verification to mitigate spoofed hardware info, but it also gives you an easy way to test major hardware functions of a phone without the need to dive through various apps or settings. This includes hard-to-test functions like the gyroscope and compass, but it also allows you to check for screen burn-in, which I definitely didn't want to find with my new display. I have had used screens with burn-in passed off as new replacements in the past. Now I can easily test for it, along with touch functionality. What did fail was the biometrics test. Checking in settings, the sensor is disabled as it's not being calibrated to the new screen. To fix this, I'll need a computer and a Chromium-based web browser. I first headed to the link provided in the error message. This contained nothing about recalibrating the fingerprint sensor, which is odd. Instead, I had to search for the tool myself, and it's located at pixelrepair.withgoogle.com. With the phone attached and booted into fastboot as instructed by the tool, I could run the install. After the phone reboots, we need to reboot it again, a common step mentioned on the page but often overlooked that results in people thinking the tool doesn't work. Now we can add our fingerprint and unlock the phone with the new fingerprint sensor. With that, the phone has now passed all tests. And we're done. So this is it, a Google Pixel 6a. What was an easy repair came with an unexpected twist. It's shown us a new danger to the used phone market, and an insight into what criminals do with stolen information. Did you know by default your credit isn't locked? So if your identity is stolen by someone, they can easily open a credit account in your name. If you're concerned about this sort of attack, explore the option of freezing your credit. a process that differs around the world, so contact your bank. But it may be the solution you're looking for. What I can't understand is why this is the default. How can a credit union borrow money to a person pretending to be you? You had to give your ID to a company, such as a telco, to get a phone number. They're the ones that got hacked, but you're left with the consequences because you should have known to lock your credit. It's almost like you're set up to be scammed. As for this Pixel 6a, it's repaired and ready for its next owner. And on that note, this has been a Hugh Jeffries video. If you like what you saw, consider subscribing and check out the playlist for tech that's not what it seems. And if you're looking for any used devices, be sure to check out my online store, link for which is down in the description. That's all for this video, and I'll catch you guys next time.